I love church, Pastor D. I grew up in church,
Yeah, me too.
And I certainly don't want to say or even promote anything that is against church. But I think what we have done is we have limited the idea of what church is, and therefore we have placed church in a box. You know, everybody's been talking about how we've placed God in a box. And we've got to pull God out of the box and all of that sort of thing. And there's some truth to that. But I think if we get to the point that we just eliminate the box altogether, rather than pulling them out of the box, let's just eliminate the box altogether.
Get rid of the box.
And when we get rid of the box, we find out that, hey, we've put church in a box as well. That church must be this, it must be that, it must be, must be a song, it must be a sermon, it must be, this. And if I'm Lutheran, church looks like this. If I'm Methodist, church looks like this. If I'm Pentecostal, then church looks like this. But there's far more into the vastness of who God is, that we have limited his expression in such limited ways.
Absolutely.
And I think it's time for us to begin to move those things forward.
Absolutely.
And make the expression of God and the expression of the kingdom as diverse as he is.
Wow. That is so very interesting to me, because one of the things that I think has happened in our communities throughout the country is that we have, for some reason, we've taken everything to the church building. Mm-hmm. We call it the house of God, and that's fine. But we've taken everything there. So when you think in terms of how many parents are leading their children at home in morning devotions, how many are literally praying with their children every morning when they get up, how much praise and worship is going on in the homes.
Yes.
And I'm not in everybody's home, so I can't say. But to me, just looking at the signs that are coming forth in the world, it seems like now we have to go to church to get prayer. Mm-hmm. We have to go to the church building to get prayer. We go and we praise and worship, and then when we get through doing it in church, we just go on about our business. So when you see the condition of the world, it makes you wonder, are we really praising and worshiping him throughout the day instead of just in the church building? You know what I mean? Because church doesn't stop when the benediction is said.
Right. Well,
the body of Christ goes on.
Well, church is really not a service. It's not, it's not our singing, it's not our preaching. Well, first of all, and I can't remember if we talked about this last week or not, but I remember saying it recently, so I don't know if this was last week on the show. But one of the things that we've got to recognize is that the word church is not a religious term, really, from its original idea.
I remember you saying that. Right. Say it again.
The word church, from its original Greek rendering, comes from the word ekklesia, which means a called out group of individuals. And when we look at the early, in the early century, in the first century, when that term was used, the ekklesia were a group of people that were called out to do legislature.
Yes.
So when Jesus said, upon this rock I build my church, or upon this rock I build my legislature, that would be the same as him saying, upon this rock I build my Congress. I build my House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. It was a governmental term. And the true reality of the church is that we are to come together as the ecclesia, as the church, as the legislators in the spirit, and begin to pray and intercede concerning those things that God has given us, because he has given us the keys to the kingdom.
To the kingdom.
To bind those things which are already bound in heaven, to loose those things that are already loosed in heaven, and we bring that legislature here on earth. And that's really what true church is. Now, we have an expression of that in our services, but that's only one expression.
Well, anytime you said Jesus set up a governmental body called the church, Anytime you start dealing with kingdom and the king's domain, you are going to deal with government.
Yes.
Government was the first order of God, and it will be the last order of God. Government is the important thing. And I know we take it lightly because we put emphasis on things like, oh, I don't know, shouting and feeling the Spirit, and for whether I feel him or not, I got him.
Right.
But we have a tendency to put emphasis on things, but we don't put a whole lot of emphasis on government. And it is the government of the kingdom that is going to be seen on earth, that is going to actually influence the world. Rather than the world influencing the quote-unquote church, we have to influence the world. And see, that's the thing